Welcome back to G Brands, brought to you by Harvey Norman. Harvey Norman has a huge range of next-gen AI PCs from the world's top brands, Microsoft, HP, Lenovo, Acer and Asus, all powered by Snapdragon. I'm Andy Rowe, and as usual, I'm joined by All Blacks legend Justin Marshall, Wallaby winner Jeremy Poole, and former Springbok captain Jean de Villiers will be joining us later on. James O'Connor sends his apologies via our G Brands group chat. He can't make it because he's still busy looking for the touchline at Eden Park.
How long did it take you to come up with that line?
All day.
When you're driving back from the West Coast, you've been over there white baiting, that you had no sleep, and you must have been thinking, how can I do a magnificent intro? You didn't even pre-warn me about that. That's actually good from you.
Thank you. I felt for James though. I wanted him to play well.
Why are you smiling then?
I almost got in a fight with my brother at the pub. He's like, "Oh, your mate James isn't going too well." I'm like, "Fuck off, mate." Who do you know in this team? Where's your mates playing?
How much merch do you think we've had to give him? So shut your mouth.
JP, anyway, mate, it's about you. How are you, mate? Are you okay? Are you okay?
I am still in shock right now that you actually cracked a funny joke. Like, that was actually really good, Andy. That was actually, like, we did send it in our group message, didn't we, to Rabs, like, too many mistakes, and he absolutely unloaded on himself. Like, he's filthy, absolutely filthy, but he started it. But crack a joke, Andy. Well done. And are you tired again, mate?
Yeah, I'm a bit tired. What we've got to understand is that my joke that I'm having to go at Rabs on, it comes from a place of love, all right?
Right, don't try and cover it. Don't try and do that, mate. It's already out there, and you've already said it, and you've fired a bullet. You know, and the thing is, mate, you know, and JP knows this, as rugby players, when we go through these situations in our career where things get sort of highlighted for various reasons, you know, what you don't want is your mates like jumping on the bandwagon, and you've just literally thrown them under the bus.
Not everyone's as sensitive as you, though, mate.
Anyway,
Couldn't be more on the point, though, mate.
Hey, JP,
wow.
like, obviously, this is what we've been building towards. We've been having banter about this since the first and opening rounds of Super Rugby, where the Aussie teams have really stepped up, and so the Bledisloe banter began, and now we've had that first Bledisloe test. Now, I don't really know where to stand here. Do you want me to make, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20 points before you then actually come in and play catch up, or because
This isn't going to be a podcast of two halves.
It seems to be the Wallabies at the moment, right? The side of two halves. But I mean, look, you can make as many points as you want. Look, this is a young, developing side. No excuses whatsoever. But 6 months ago, we would never have been considered a chance at Eden Park. Mate, we were a chance. We also had the world champions, the Springboks, clueless for a week. Like they did not know or could ever have fathomed that the Wallabies were going to beat them at Joburg at Ellis Park. So for a week, they were under huge amounts of siege, right? Under huge amounts of pressure.
Mate, that was ages
ago.
The
All Blacks.
It was ages ago.
No. But, mate, look at the progression that we've done this year. And what I said after the Lions test, I said if we could win one in South Africa and we could win in Perth, I did want to win the 2 Argentinian games at home, because you've got to build a fortress at home and reward the fans. Boys, 2 sold-out stadiums. Oh, my God. Sydney, Perth, sold out. Like, this is actually, Perth was a real big one for me, because it sold out before the Eden Park game, so before the result. So it wasn't a decider. It was actually sold out because we're getting that fan base. So hence why the both Argentinian games, well, we almost did it. But again, we're giving these crazy starts away. But then to go over to Auckland and actually be a chance. Boys, we're talking about a 40-year curse here, right? Like, we're no team. 51, 52 matches, I believe. Mm-hmm. And we had your staunchest New Zealand supporters going, holy shit, they're a chance. Like, it's just, mate, we could never have imagined the Wallabies being in this situation. Like we actually spoke to Jean the other week, right? Like and mentioned, I think you and I, Marshy, were talking about, like Skolberger said, it's a decade, mate. The Wallabies are a decade away at least. Like we're talking about the fastest progression I think we've ever seen in any rugby's history. So. Look, mate, I'm a half full type of guy. So, to go over there, to be in the fight, they had no rights, mate. They had no rights to be in the game at 26-24 in the 70th minute. Like, that was nuts, like absolute nuts. So, mate, do you see me here? Like, mate, I could not be happier. I could not be prouder of this Wallaby side. Like, this is, mate, our back three, we had 23 caps between us. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, and you had to go through a bit of adversity, like losing Tate McDermott. And I was a bit gutted for him, to be honest, because I was looking forward to him and Roygard, who I believe are very similar players, going toe-to-toe over a good 65, 70 minutes. But that didn't eventuate. And so for young Ryan Lonergan, well, not young, but for him to come on young in the international arena and have to be thrown into that situation, I thought he adapted really well. But let's cut through the shit straight away. Like typical, like not typical, but you're never going to get away with the Aussies not having a whinge like every now and then. There's been a bit of backlash about you guys were on the wrong side of the referee at the weekend. Thoughts?
Well, look, I think international. Look, let's just make this point very clear. The referee will never lose you a game. Like there are many other opportunities. Like the referee's not the one that misses the tackles. Yes, he awards the penalties, but look, I'll dive into that a little bit later. But just all the simple facets. Like the referee's not the one that kicks for the sideline rabs. Like, do you know what I mean? Like these little simple mistakes.
Oh my God!
Here's number 2. Oh my God! There it is.
We're talking about the referee and no need.
Yeah, jab. So look, the big thing for me though is the spectacle and the entertainment value. Like you've got to look at not just the refereeing on the weekend. So look at the Rugby World Cup women's final between England and Canada. We saw, I believe, Hannah Bottoman, or I think the loosehead prop for England, she got 10 minutes for the lift, and instantly, actually, the referee went yellow card, bang. And then you look at Geordie Barrett's, like I think it was his tackle on Rabs, where his horizontal or that lift was way higher. Did I think it was 10 minutes? God, no. No, it wasn't 10 minutes. No way. Like I thought it was a brilliant tackle by Geordie Barrett. But we see on the other side of the world in one of the biggest events, the highest fans ever to a women's game, over 81,000 boys. What a spectacular event. And there we see a sin binning for exactly the same situation across the other side of the world. And for me, and I think for fans, I think that those type of inconsistencies is what's really frustrating for everyone. Not necessarily blaming who wins, who loses, because the hard part, man, and I've said this for decades, I'm sorry, I've said this since I was playing like 20 odd years ago, is going from, say, like an Italian to a French referee to a New Zealand to an Australian, all different countries. 1 week you are playing a completely different game. So when you talk about the ill discipline of the Wallabies, right, I'm really sorry, but last week they weren't being penalised for that, or the week before they weren't being penalised for that. So I think it's not just the Wallabies. It's a frustration for all teams at the moment in international rugby. And I think it's something that World Rugby has to look at and look at immediately.
But when you're looking at that though, JP, is it not like looking at players in some respect where like you're going to get a variation of a way a 10 plays from, doesn't matter how good they are, if they're a 10, they're in the international level, they're going to play in a different way. They're going to play, some will play a running game, some will play a percentage game. And then you've got referees where no matter how much we keep the rules aligned and keep the rules the same and we want them applied the same, it's up to the coaches and the players. Because I know McCaw was very good at that, understanding that every ref was going to ref differently, and that's what. That's the reality.
Don't ever use Richard McCaw in a conversation with referees, mate, because I tell you what, if the yellow card was back then, the guy would have got 50 million.
But that's the point. He didn't, because he knew the refs.
No, because they didn't have yellow cards. That's quite simple, mate. Like it would have been, the games would have been drastically different. But look, you can't even comment back then. But where I'm going, like, I get exactly what you're saying, right? But it is incredibly difficult to change from week to week when you're playing and when you're under extreme exhaustion, right? Extreme fatigue, mate. All your bad habits, all your habits come out. And so you go what's called an autopilot. So basically all your training, that's why when they say, oh, we prepared really well for this week. And normally preparation and a good training week will result in a really good winning performance, right? Like, and so, you know, when I look at like players in this current, like we were the same, Marshy.
Yeah, I think more than anything, JP, that obviously technology's played a massive part too. Like at the weekend, we've not just got one TMO, we've got two. So we had Mario Sionka was the TMO, and then we had a TMO that was looking after foul play as well. So you've got more eyeballs on looking for reasons to try and interrupt the game. And you know how I feel about that. I don't feel it's healthy for the game. I agree with what you were saying in terms of the O'Connor situation. You've got massive inconsistency there. But what I prefer is for something like that can happen reasonably regularly in the game, and it was on borderline that they actually dealt with it pretty well. It's like, you know what? Didn't really have a major effect on the game. No problem for Jock, who got landed safely, and the referee at the time said, for what I saw at Timo's come in, he said it's fine. But then you've got the inconsistency, like you said, in the women's game. So yeah, that's the major frustration. I think the problem is that in big test matches, Bledisloe Cup on the line, those sorts of things will be over-scrutinised because people will feel if they aren't officiated properly, then they'll be unfairly treated, and that's just going to be the fallout. Back in our day, Matt, there wasn't that amount of officiating. There wasn't the extra TMO. In fact, the TMO was hardly even existent initially, and then when he was there, he was only to deal with thuggery. It was like, righto, it's advanced now that he came in twice for knock-ons. And I think I said in the commentary, you wouldn't have heard this, but I said in the commentary, you know what? The game had already moved on. There was a knock-on there, but the players had all moved on. The game had moved on, but just because he was an injury, they went all the way back to halfway to adjudicate on a knock-on. It's like, you know what? Shit, the game just doesn't need that. But, and just very briefly, I think probably the fallout is simply because you're right. Like, you have to have the ability to read what the referee's doing and how he's adjudicating and adapt and adjust. The couple, at least 2 instances, and I can probably think of 4 if I really had to, for Australia, I thought that they were accurate. And there's nothing more they could have done, and they got penalised for not being wrong. And so what do you do then as a player? It's like, righto, hey, there was clear release. His hands were on the ball. There's no penalty there. But they got penalised, and then bang, they got a second one off the bounce. Same thing. Your elbow was on the ground. When you saw the replay, it's like it wasn't, and his hands were on the ball. So you've got a couple of penalties there as a player. You're going, fuck me. What else do you want me to do? I'm legal. So in the player's mind, JP, you're illegal. You're not doing anything wrong. There's no adaptation there to be had. It's like, I've got this right. Technically, you've got this wrong, but I've been penalised, and now the team's under pressure.
It did feel like the Wallabies were getting pinged way more than what they should have.
Yeah, look, that's the ebbs and flows of a game, right? Like, you look at that first half, the first 30 minutes, it was all the ABs. Like, it was just, it was crazy, like the amount of territory and possession that they had. Like, but it kind of goes with how the Wallabies have been performing since the third test in Sydney against the Lions, when, you know, that was arguably, I think, our best, even better than Ellis Park, simply because Ellis Park was, again, another performance that we let South Africa, like when you first watched that first 20 minutes, right, you would have thought South Africa was going to win by 60. But, you know, this resilience that we've seen from the Wallabies, and whether or not it's just like this youthful, like unknown, like fearless type of team, like, or they don't actually know or have the experience to click into that gear. Like, you know, and again on the weekend, like what we saw, and I suppose for all Wallaby fans, they're all scratching their head and they're going, like, what? Like, how do we fix this? Do you know how you get a fast start? That's your defensive pressure. Right, like that's your tackling. You got to make your tackles. Like regardless, you have obviously your set piece. You don't give away penalties for territory and possession, but first and foremost, it's your defense. Like it's your line speed, it's your connection, and it's getting up and making those tackles. And in the first 20 minutes, we saw oh God, I think it was like 10 to 15 missed tackles. Like I don't think Caleb Clark actually got tackled first up, like any time whenever he had the ball. So, you can't start fast unless you tackle. Like you take the third test, like Dylan Peach. Wow, his decision making, and he caused turnovers. Will Skilton, like just being physical and dominant, leading up, and just manhandling players. Guys were doing really big offensive tackles, right? Like we're getting up onto the advantage line, if not forcing them back behind. And what we've seen now against Argentina, also obviously the Springboks as well, and then again against the All Blacks at Eden Park, is that defensive mindset. Like that first 30 minutes, man, you've got to have this resilience and this wall that no one can ever get through. And that sets you up for the entire game. Like it really does. And I feel that they've done it once. They've done it once this year. So I think from when you look at that, you can then confirm just how young this side is, because they've only done it once.
Can I ask you about that then? Because, obviously, from Australian perspective, you're listening to their commentary, so you're seeing what they are seeing over there and hearing what they are saying. But here for me, and I said it a couple of times throughout the game, I could not believe how passive Australia's defence was. The amount of time in that back line that they were allowing, the All Blacks were shifting it across with no players on them to be able to get it into the centres, get it to Will Jordan and Caleb Clark with no defenders on them. They were real passive, soft drift. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, it was really weird. And actually, Mike Cron, when he got interviewed at half-time, he actually said, like, we're real passive on our defence. We're giving them too much time and space. And they still, to a degree, didn't adjust in the second half. Like, why? Why were they doing that?
Mate, look, 100%, right? I believe that's youth. I believe it's inexperience. So, take the Caleb Clark try. Right, like that very first one. When you're on your own goal line, you do not take 1 or 2 steps off and then slide. Like you take that time and space, man. And that's what we saw again. Like, sorry to use Dylan Peach again, but look at the effectiveness that he did and his aggression to the line, and then the tackles he made. Like they were so good, not only from a decision making, but also the impact itself too. Right, like where we were able to get players in to be able to force that turnover, or there was a turnover from the contact. So, look, I think we've seen a very passive sort of defensive line since that third test. But again, I believe, like being a very young side, they haven't got the resolve of defence yet. Like, and that goes back to that Queensland state of origin, right? No mistakes. Remember, we said that at the start of the year. Like we said, if they can do no mistakes and they can defend incredibly well, they'll be in the game. So, but the only way they could get back into the game too, though, right, was they did then start to defend properly. Like we saw glimpses of it, though, bro. It wasn't an 80-minute performance or even a 65 to 75-minute defensive performance. There's clumps, right? Like there's 10 minutes here, there's 5 minutes here. There's another 5 minutes here, another 10 minutes there. Like there's no built pressure in terms of momentum. Like they same with the ball as well, to be honest. Like they weren't able to generate any type of momentum because we'd have a turnover or this lack of connection too at the breakdown. New Zealand were very good at attacking the breakdown. Let's also give the All Blacks credit. But I'm with you, bro, isn't it? It's frustrating. Like,
it was frustrating.
But I think it's a young team.
I'm wanting the All Blacks to win the Bledisloe Cup, but I'm obviously wanting a contest, and I watch Australia defend like that, and I'm thinking, why are you doing that? You're just allowing the All Blacks time and space to all their dangerous players. Will Jordan's coming at you. He's got no pressure on him. But, hey, look, I just wanted to quickly add, I thought they did a real good job on defending Joseph Akuso-Suali'i in that game. They just gave him no time and space. They came in and shut him down because he's obviously in real good form at the moment. So credit to the All Black coaching group and the players for looking after him on the day, and obviously they shut for most of the day Fraser McRide out as well, so that's 2 of your man crushes. But if I'm going to have a man crush, mate, I like he's got to get his tackle technique better because he does it a lot, Harry Wilson, and he could have got himself yellow carded for it. But don't you love the way that bloke plays? Like, honestly,
I'm such
mate,
a big
it doesn't
fan.
matter.
Such
It
a
doesn't
big fan.
matter if it's Evan Etzebeth or Damien McKenzie in front of him. He's got the same mindset of, I'm going to fucking line you up.
Yeah.
You stop me, and I'm not going at 3/4 pace. I'm coming at full pace.
off the back
Mate,
fence.
that's with and without the ball, right?
Oh, man.
He does it in attack and defence. Look, just with Joseph Suaalii, I think the thing for Len Ikitau, who I believe, God, he's in top 5.
I thought he
players in
played
the
well. I
world,
cannot
isn't he?
believe he's going overseas, mate.
Look, that was a
you'll find the rules, though,
decision.
obviously, to bring him back.
Yeah, of course, but that was a decision at the start of the year. Look,
Right.
he a bit of a sabbatical, got a young family, so being able to spend more time and experience, right, a bit of life. But I think the key to Suaalii too is Len Ikitau, and because I think sometimes, he can find himself going for too much work around the ruck. What he does is he shows up, pops up, and we actually saw Suaalii trying to do that a few times as well, particularly when the players were coming around the corner. Again, we're seeing that 11 at the start of games, that pattern of going one way, coming back the other, going the one way, coming back the other, and then getting around the corner. What I'd like to see is going around the corner, exhaust, man, for the first 20, 30, then start that 11 pattern going back and forth each side, because I want to see defences chasing around the corner. But with Len Ikitau, I think he's got to make some decision making on when to stay out and when to go in, and I think that will keep the width a little bit with Suaalii. But again, boys, look, looking at that back three, maybe that was a little bit about the passiveness as well, I think. And
so.
They did a great job. Look, they did a great job with Fraser McWright. Look, again, though, what a battler. What a competitor. Wow. God, I love it, mate. I just love watching
we know
Fraser
you love
McWright.
it.
Do you love it? I just...
How much?
And I tell you what, boys, I've got to give a big rap to Billy Pollard. Look, do you know, I wrote an article for the 2023 Rugby World Cup, and I actually had him as my
Can you imagine
a
reading
couple
that?
of years ago.
Can you imagine reading
Rain
that?
Man doesn't write.
Oh, the
does he?
Rain Man. Oh, look, again, it's all
Rain
in
Man's
ones and
chat-
zeros.
GBT every time. He just
It's
He wrote an
it's
article in
code.
Excel.
It's in code.
on your fast Harvey Norman new computer that we haven't got.
Oh, mate,
But you
mate,
have.
straight into AI. But look, Billy Pollard. Look, I think he's taken oh wow, he had a crackerjack of a game. And
We'll come back shortly and we'll talk about the All Blacks performance, and then also we'll preview this Bledisloe Cup game 2. But it is time for this week's Harvey Norman Next Gen Moment of the Week. Whether you're after Microsoft, HP, Lenovo, Acer or Asus, Harvey Norman's got all the latest AI PCs, all powered by Snapdragon. And this week we're talking high performance.
We're talking high performance, and when you boil down all the rugby and the competitiveness of it, but you can pick out an individual to be the high performer. Look, in my mind, there's some standout performances, but none better in terms of world-class performance than Sasha Feinberg Mngomezulu.
Oh my God.
Look, just
Unbelievable.
absolutely put together a package on the rugby field that had everything in it. Like the ability to change the game, change momentum. He changed it when Argentina in the match. A kick through, chased his own kick, and then regathered on the ground, showed the speed and initiative to find the space, and then score the try. And so like to do that when the game was tight and be able to change the way that the game was flowing. Scored 2 tries close to the line, one of them with an outrageous dummy and a pirouette and spun around. The second one also close to the line where he sniffed an opportunity, reached out and scored there. Goal kicking was absolutely immaculate. Kicking out of hand was perfect. You talk about a guy putting together a performance. I think it was 37 points, was it? You think away back to Dan Carter versus the Lions type thing. Game changing.
Huge.
Game changing. You had a team that were in the fight, and then one individual just comes out and bangs out 37 points on his own, scores tries, runs the cutter, kicks goals. Absolutely immaculate. So, yeah, for me, high performance, Harvey Norman, player of the week by a million miles, Sasha Feinberg Mngomezulu.
That is,
a million miles, a million, mate. Gee, Cam, I know players all around the world listen to this podcast religiously, mate. They hang on this award. Cam Roygard, he must have been close.
No,
You
know what, JP? Fair enough.
Conversation.
He was in the conversation.
He was amazing.
He was in the conversation.
Amazing.
But, he only had a mediocre 10 points.
He only scored 2.
and against
actually,
the Wallabies, to be fair.
And he did, and he also,
and in my mind, Rain Man, that's 27 points off Mngomezulu. So that's why he's got the
Mate,
award.
Mate, you're
Mate,
like,
I will have to say,
like
look-
an AI Snapdragon computer, Marshy. That is outperformance, just like Snapdragon-powered PCs, delivering peak performance and multi-day battery life. With next-gen AIs, you don't have to choose between power and longevity. You get both. Head into your local Harvey Norman and see what real high performance looks like. Let's talk about the All Blacks performance. Razor looked jittery beforehand in the press conferences. How will he be feeling after that?
Well, relieved because, the pressure was building because of the performance in Wellington. And so, as a coach, internally you feel that external pressure and that's the nature of the job. And so do the players because the public are invested. So leading into a test match where you had a Wallabies side coming that was more than capable of challenging for the Bledisloe Cup, then it just manifests that pressure. So relief will be the first thing. And I can't argue that I don't feel that they didn't deserve to win the game. I think they probably on the day, with their good start and that in the key moments, they nailed down their chances when they needed to. Did they create them over 80 minutes and were they immaculate? Hell no. Far from it. And they got put under pressure. And things could have flipped quite quickly if they didn't show some resolve at times when they needed it and some accuracy when they needed it. So, and they had to deal with adversity. Look, at the end of the day, they lost their game driver in Beauden Barrett, like Australia did with Tate McDermott. So they had to adapt there because McKenzie, he sits differently the way he orchestrates the back line. He plays slightly deeper, and so all of a sudden now players have to adjust around that. And then you lose Caleb Clark, so they had to put a midfielder on the wing. So they had to deal with a few things that got through. They lost Ethan de Groot early. So they had to adapt and adjust to that. Exactly. So, what they didn't come easy on the day, and then the opposition turned up as well and fought back. And I just feel that, more than anything, did he get a lot of answers out of that? Possibly got a few, but there's still some questions there because there's still some things that didn't quite click that is still evidently missing. And now they've got to make some decisions around selections. Another outside back's gone down. So they're going to have to find a solution to that, whether it's bringing Rico back in or maybe going to, again, an electrifying Inuku, or where they go in that regard, who they get as their game driver. Is it McKenzie or do they bring Love in? But some positives
what do you
as well.
mean? Is it McKenzie or do they bring Love in? You don't think it's a given that McKenzie's just going to walk into 10?
Well, that would be the natural thing to do, but I just don't feel how that's going to give us any form of evolution in knowing, should we have an injury to Damien McKenzie, then who? That's the question I'm asking you.
Ruben Love.
But Ruben Love hasn't played any 10 for the All Blacks. None.
Right.
Not even been given an opportunity off the bench. Absolutely nothing. So it's like...
You see that?
Yeah, go.
That's a very good point, Marshy. Because, see, the ABs are in a transition, but the selections aren't saying you're in a transition.
No.
Oh, that's so true.
When we were in a when we were in a transition last year, we had 17 debutants. So everyone was like, "Yeah, we're on board here, man. We're with you, Joe." The All Blacks, you're in a transition, but the selections, you still got too many old players. Too many familiarity.
I'm like a kid in the classroom.
Yeah,
okay.
If I spark something up.
Yeah, no, it's a great. It's a great point, but I have a theory on this, and the theory is, if it's Lassie Erasmus, he has the bank to be able to take the risk. He's got 2 World Cups, in the bank. He's got success in the bank. Scott Robertson at the moment is not got that. He's got history against him, losing to Argentina, record loss to the Springboks. So should he take those risks with our public, mate, and the way we feel about rugby, then it manifests on him and snowballs, because it's like, why did you pick him? Why did you do that? Do you know what I mean? That's just what I want to throw in there and get your thoughts on it.
No, Marshy, that's exactly what I'm saying, is that when you look at Razor's selections and you look at it through like his squad that he's had from the start and even from last year, is it too late now for him to make those decisions? Like that's really the crux of it, right? Like, can he now turn around to the All Black or New Zealand public and go, we're in a transition, I'm going to make these selections? Like, probably not. I think he's got to be really subtle. But the thing is, man, you've got to build a nucleus. And what I liked on the weekend about the All Blacks, Cam Roigard, my God, like, put him in cotton wool. I don't give a shit. Do whatever you got to do, man. But this guy is the decision maker you need and the running halfback you need to be inside Bodie Barrett. It was a real shame that actually Bodie got injured. Obviously, having Cody Taylor there at hooker. Artie Severe is obviously always going to be that main, particularly through that spine. And Geordie Barrett, like, wasn't only Geordie Barrett's defence and his attack, but his aerial game. Like, he diffused every high ball that could possibly happen. So I believe,
pretty sure, like, your first high ball that you guys put up, Geordie was the one back to take it.
Yeah. No, I think he took a half a dozen. He took
this.
a half a dozen of them. I think obviously Fletcher Newell and Lomax at tight head. Look, you build that nucleus of that side. I believe you can make any type of selections you want. Look, I think for the All Blacks, just to win was well and truly enough. Yeah. But I would like to see Razor build his squad more. And actually, you say you're in a transition, we'll pick the players to transition.
Okay, good. So off the back of that, first of all, I think a lot of people expected blood in the water. And I think a response and there was a chat around, 20, 30 points, we're going to put on the Wallabies. So that's testament to how far the Wallabies have come, I think. But equally, the kind of a little bit of a mindset of where the All Blacks are in terms of risk, reward, and just getting the job done. And I thought that they looked that way at the weekend. They looked like they just needed to get the job done. And I think, they did that. So that's a good thing. And I'm going to lob this grenade out here, but
here he goes.
But why not? And I'm saying it as respectfully as I possibly can. I really am. The perfect opportunity to do this is in Perth. We've got the Bledisloe Cup secured. It's back in the bank. We've got some injuries that we need to basically nurse those players back through and see whether or not they're going to be able to even be on the end of year tour. After Perth, it's Ireland and Dublin, Scotland, who have never beaten us in the history of the game, and then England at Twickenham. If we're going to find out some answers to some questions in terms of can Ruben Love play 10 if Damien McKenzie's the fall over and Beauden Barrett can't, Perth is the time. If we're going to say can Geordie Barrett playing on the wing and we pick a different midfield, Quinn Tupaia starts at 12 or Lester Nuku comes in, now's the time. It's not saying, Australia are vulnerable, we should experiment on them. It's saying, if we're going to do it, and with what we've got coming on the end of year tour, now is the time, and it's still a time, I believe, we could inject those players into a test that we can still win.
100%. Yeah. You got to pull the trigger now. But subtle changes though.
Yeah, subtle. You were right in what you said, and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You're bang on. No. Like you throw Ruben Love in there, and he's got Artie Severe a couple of jerseys away from him with 100 Test matches. Cody Taylor with 100 Test matches. Scott Barrett may come back in the mix. He's 70, 80 Test matches. You've got enough experience within that group to not worry that it's like, we're so green, we're going to shit the bed. No way. There's the front row. You mentioned the front row. Even the back three, not so much. But Will Jordan, he's world class. So it's not as if he's going out there with a side that's completely inexperienced, super green, and we're gonna basically lose because we're inexperienced. Wouldn't be that.
No, and it's not a game also too, like you said, Marshy, where you're disrespecting the Wallabies by selection. No. It's purely focusing in your inner self and your inner squad. No, correct. But look, I suppose there's also too that first game against Ireland, right? So when you want to be able to transition players, it's also got to be in a squad that's full of confidence. Like you said, that game, they didn't look like a side that was could easily put. They had enough possession and enough territory to put an old All
100%.
Black side would have put 30 to 40 points on that Wallaby side. That's what I was saying to you. It was incredibly courageous by this Wallaby team in the 70th minute to be 26-24 down. Like in past years, man, that would never have happened. They would have been put to the sword 20 minutes earlier. So is that a reflection on how good the Wallabies have progressed? Yeah, absolutely, but probably more about where the All Blacks currently sit at the moment, where you've got a coach that is under siege. You got players fighting for their positions that are normally their form is never questioned. You got selection issues surrounding probably too good of players. So you're trying again to manufacture positions for players and get them on the starting pitch or get them in the 23. I think for Razor, the only thing that's really going to keep the pressure off at the end of the day, right, is winning. Like, you have to win. So I would start Damien McKenzie, 100% Ruben Love. Like, here is your opportunity now to be able to see a kid at a position you've always wanted to, but never had the opportunity to do it, right? Like,
so JP, you're saying put Ruben Love in the 10 jersey?
On the bench. Like, Damien McKenzie's got to start. Look, you have to continue with what you've started, but then have subtle differences with respect to this transition. Like,
I'd go the other way.
I don't want to see starting.
JP, you know what you're going to get out of Damien McKenzie. He's going to give you that every week. If you put Damien on the bench, like he did at the weekend, if he comes on after 30 minutes for Bowden or 25 minutes for Ruben Love, every other player can play across the back line. It'll just slot straight into what you know. What you don't know is what Ruben Love can bring in terms of how he triggers the back line, how flat he plays, what he offers the defence in terms of something different. It enables us to evolve as a back line, but you're not majorly changing it, like, because you've got that backstop in McKenzie off the bench. You've got him there.
Look, I would start D-Mac because, again, it's the other players within the squad in terms of your selection policy. So what are other players that then going to turn around and go, what? Someone going to come and leapfrog me? I'm going to go and take this deal in Japan now. Like, I'm going to go and take this. I can see the writing on the wall.
Okay. So Ming the Merciless, I just want to know, because we have this one last statement from you. So you threw out there this, you said Australia are probably where they are now, because we've had 17 players come in and debut for the team over a period of time, and we've grown to where we are now. But you don't want us to do that? You want us to go back to players that we already know stuff about?
That's not what I'm saying. I said...
Because you are saying we're in a transition.
I'm not picking up the sticks you're putting down here, Raymond.
No, 100%. No, bro. Hold on. You guys are in a transition without the selection in regards to a transition. You haven't shown the courageousness of what Joe Smith did and by starting 17 players like last year in a season. Like, what I'm saying is I believe you've gone too far now. Like, Razor started last year. This is when he should have been making those selections. However, he's now 18 months into it, second year, and now about to go on an autumn. Look, he's regained the Bledisloe Cup, still has a chance to win the Rugby Championship. So, at the end of the day, he could still could still leave and 3-test win against the French as well. So it could actually still have a very, very incredible, apart from that debacle in Wellington, like, still pretty successful in terms of winning, right? Like, so, but I would make subtle changes, not like the 17 I'm talking about over an entire season. There's a couple there that I would make with existing players, but why is the bench not being utilised better? Like, I don't know, man. Like, in this professional era, I came through an era where if you got onto the bench, like, it was your mechanism to try and get into that starting team, and that's where the pressure was applied, as well as Test Match Wednesday. Like, let's not forget training, right? Like, where you could bash the shit out. Yeah, mate, live scrums. Fuck!
Stitches Wednesday night.
Oh, mate. Yeah, mate, 100%. Guys, I saw massive punch-ups, right, between players that, you'd have a beer afterwards and, big cuddle and kiss. And
I had some of my best fights at training.
Did you actually? Who did you fight at training?
Oh, everyone.
Who didn't he? Like, who didn't he fight?
I tell you, Mark Hammett and I had to avoid each other at training. Yes, he used to wind me
Did
up.
you? The Hammer?
I imagine.
Yeah, Hammer. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a fiery bug. I loved playing against the Hammer. Like, he
Troy
was
Flavel,
what a gorgeous man.
Mark Cooksley, Locks. It seems to be all tight five, mate. Richard Lowe chased me around the rugby field for 15 minutes one day when he tried to tell. He said to me, we're doing a captain's run, JP, captain's run. So there's no opposition scrum. So we're just putting it in, then we're running through our motions. So we're just, it's unopposed. And he said to me, he looked at me, turned to me when I put the ball in. I was only 22, 21. And he turned to me and he said, next time you put that fucking ball in, you put it in straight. And I looked at him and said, I tell you what, mate, I won't have to worry about putting it in straight or not, because you have to worry about pushing, which I've never seen you do before in your life. Because I just saw the red mist straight away. And he literally stood up straight away, and I raced to the back of the scrum, and then I could hear him
scurried away.
He was going. I could hear him running towards the breakdown, looking to absolutely annihilate. He chased me for 15 minutes.
Jesus, the last
guy there's some angry Tide 5, mate. There's some angry Tide 5 players.
Mate.
We used to see that, mate, live scrums. The second team would go early, and then you'd break up, and punches would be flying, and mate, Test Match Wednesday was one of the best days, for coaches, because they loved it.
Well, someone not known for his scrapping has just joined the program. Former Springbok captain Jean de Villiers joins us. Any scraps at training that you can recall?
Yeah. Well, it was normally, when you get these late withdrawals going into a Test match where there's a back out injured, it's normally after a scrap at training where a forward stood on a back's toe or broke his leg by just being clumsy or something like that. And then every now and then the forwards would keep themselves busy as well, just getting to know each other a little bit better with some scraps after mauling practice or scrums or anything like that. But, as a back, we normally just, stayed very far away from that.
Jean, there's two names that spring straight to mind for me when I'm thinking about annoying people at training runs and through that sort of period that you would have been involved in. Possibly not the first guy, James Dalton, but JP would probably be able to talk about him.
Pest.
And then secondly, Bucky's Borter. Those two guys, if they were anywhere near the ball at training, I would be 1,000,000 miles away.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough, lucky I suppose, not to have played too many games with James Dalton, but he's the kind of guy that you try to stay away from on the training pitch, but also off the pitch. Okay, so actually met up. Well, we did a thing together last
yes, we
year,
did.
Didn't we, Marshy?
The Bullet.
Yeah, with Bullet and. Fascinating guy, but he's the kind of guy that you stay away from training. And Buckies, yes, same thing. But the thing about Buckies is that when he goes into game mode, I think it's a totally different human being versus the training guy. He's actually a little bit, I don't want to say less intimidating, but I mean, he's not that full tilt, 100% give it all, I'm going to kill you attitude at training, whereas when you play against him. So I always loved putting the green jumper on, playing with Bucky's Buerta, and then when I put the Stormers jumper on and he's wearing the Bulls one, it's as if he's never met me before, and it's a totally different human being.
We were having a debate before, quite a healthy debate, and this leads into my next question, but first of all, just talking about the All Blacks first five situation. So we've got Beauden Barrett's out injured. Marshy reckons that we should be putting Ruben Love straight into our 10 jersey and bringing D-Mac in off the bench just to see what Ruben Love's got. So first of all, I want to get your opinion on that, and then we'll get on to a specific 10 that was wearing the green jumper on the weekend, because a hell of a performance.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation that you sit with. We haven't, and I haven't seen too much of Ruben Love. At 10, obviously there's a lot of talent there, and he's been kind of groomed as someone that can take over that position. The fact that Richie Mo'unga is coming back next year, it's like, you're sitting in this position where, okay, you're trying to get someone back, but then you're also wanting to blood someone and get a player in that position that can eventually take over. And it seems like Ruben Love would be that guy. You can't really see a Beauden Barrett or D-Mac going past 2027 and still remaining with those two. So, at some stage you need to give the only way that you get experience is by playing in that position and actually taking control and seeing whether you can, whether you sink or whether you swim. So it'll be an interesting one if they do give it to a Ruben Love, because obviously the All Blacks are in a great position still to win this Rugby Championship, even though it's been a difficult one for them. So if they do give it to him, I think it'll be a great show of faith in him as a player and as a starting 10. But with that comes a lot of responsibilities as well. So that you've got someone like a D-Mac there that's done it before, and it seemed as if he was like last year, he was kind of the 10 that they wanted to go with, and then they changed their mind in a way. So it'll be fascinating to see who they go with, because also it's not just your 10, it's the combinations that goes with it. I think having a guy like Cam Hoygaard there at the moment, makes a big difference, because I think he's very influential and he'll play a hell of a lot of test matches. So that helps, but and then having a Geordie Barrett at 12, I think if that's your 9, 10, 12 axis, it certainly makes it much easier for a 10 to come in and hopefully have a good performance.
Yeah, well answered. That you've obviously done your homework as you usually do. I wouldn't expect anything less. Either that or you're a very good liar. But equally, I like the fact that you're right. Like Ruben Love played all of his rugby as a 10, and simply because of the likes of Beauden Barrett and Brett Cameron and stuff, he had to sort of do his time, so they slotted him at fullback. But he is actually 10, and then you think if he's with Roygaard and Geordie Barrett, then he's in a familiar environment. But probably when we think about that, we think about the ability to unleash talent. And then I was working with you guys throughout that World Cup 23, and obviously the Springboks being World Cup champions, they had a mindset in the way they wanted to play, which Handré Pollard was a perfect executioner for. But chatting to you guys kind of in and around that tournament and off air, like you were telling me about this kid, Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu, and I was like, right, okay, you talk up players, but hey, that performance at the weekend and the type of player that he is, it's just showing something completely different to that 10 jersey that we have not seen in a Springbok player for quite a while.
Yeah, Marshy, and before I speak about Sasha's performance on the weekend, we tend to forget that Handré Pollard was not part of the Springbok squad, the initial squad that went to the World Cup in 2023. It was only because of a hooker getting injured, and JP, sometimes the hookers do actually add value. So it's only after Malcolm Marx got injured that Rassie decided, okay, well, it obviously makes sense to replace a hooker with a fly-half. And then Handré Pollard came in. And I mean, he was just phenomenal coming off the bench initially and then taking over in the playoffs. So it worked out for the team eventually. And I think that is, that is what you've got in a guy like Handré Pollard. You know that if you're in a World Cup final, he's going to be able to deliver. But I think the evolution of the team, Manie Libbok was very much part of the evolution of the team and the attack where they want to go to. And then it was kind of the rise of Sasha and what he showed that he can do. And then this weekend, getting a starting spot, putting up a performance like he did, you can just see he's such a talented rugby player. I still think it wasn't, in terms of managing a game and in terms of bringing the rest of the backline into the game and those kind of things, he will grow into that. And I think that is the element of his game where he still needs to grow. But that comes with time as well, like a Ruben Love potentially. But his individual skill set and what he did on the weekend, and when he just reacts and sees something and executes, it was a phenomenal performance. And I think for a lot of people in South Africa that weren't really surprised to see that because he's done it before.
No, he's a freak. It was very much Stephen Lark. Like, his decision making, right? Like he's just and the way he thinks, mind you, it does help when you've got a forward pack as big as South Africa and you're going forward, right?
Mate, this, I guess, involvement in the Springboks over the last couple of test matches, like no one knows where Rassi's mine is. There's no doubt about that. So you've obviously got now the Rugby Championship to win or to not at Wembley in London. Is it
Twickenham.
Wembley or is it Twickenham?
Twickenham. Same place.
Twickenham.
Same place.
Still London.
It's London.
Allianz. It's Allianz
Allianz,
Stadium.
There's, you will never get me saying that, you know, and to all of our UK fans out there, which there's plenty of, it's Twickenham. So what does he do? Is he sticking with this hybrid team that he's now picking, or does he go back to maybe a Honda, Pollard, etc.?
No, he sticks with the current team. He probably goes 7-1 split. He probably goes.
Of course he does. Of course he does.
Yeah, he probably does something that no one is thinking of at the moment.
Wow.
But I can't see him going too far away from the team that started on the weekend. Apparently, quite a few injuries. I think Cheslin apparently slight niggle, Ethan Hooker niggle. Thomas de Toy, a niggle, so all three of them might not be available for selection. But then again, the depth that he's been able to create within that squad, you know, puts you in a position where you can bring guys in that slots in seamlessly. But you know, in terms of the team that started on the weekend, I can't see a lot of changes in terms of that, and it just feels as if we've got the even the bench right now as well, with them really making an impact, the guys that are coming on. I mean, you know, we speak about that performance of Sasha on the weekend, but when Mani Libbok came on, I mean, he was fizzing the ball, and the attacking nature of the team was just totally different with him on the field. So, you know, when you have a base like that, and JP, to your point, like if you have a pack like that going forward and that's so dominant, it's brilliant for a backline player, and to bring you up to bring on a guy like Mani to take control of the attack, then you know it's such a fortunate position to be in.
Yeah, actually that's a really, really good point. Like about the selections, because we're talking about the All Blacks and being in a transition without the selections, like translating into a transition where there's too many familiar faces. And then I look at the Boks and I go, you guys seriously have a new 15 every week? Like that result that you did in Wellington where you had 450 caps out and it's you still smacked them by 43-10. Does this now become like a selection issue for Rassie as well? Like I know you sort of say we joke around he's going to do a 7-1 split, but does this, like when you have too many good players trying to jam them in, does this now become an issue? Because you're looking at 2027. Like a lot of those players that we spoke about, like the Jesse Creels, like these guys, are they going to make the 2027 Rugby World Cup? And then does Rassie start that now?
I think they go to the World Cup. I think it's great to have those kind of players that you know you can fall back on and provide something different in a way in terms of your strategy going into a game. You know, the only issue that it could create is if you have whenever you're in a team environment and you have a lot of senior guys that now that's used to being first choice players that now becomes so-called second choice players, you know, what could happen is, and I'm sure you guys have been in teams like that as well, where the culture within the squad sometimes could be a threat, where, you know, you've kind of been the main guy and now you're not, but now it creates a bit of friction within that squad because the youngsters are coming through.
Is this your selection policy? Is this selection policy you're talking about? Please tell me that's selection policy, because I literally just said that to Marshy. I said that to Marshy about the All Blacks, is you can't just go leapfrog players because it sends a bad... Like, you've got to have consistency in your selection, but... I don't see any consistency with Rassie as well, right? Like, how do you control that? Fuck.
Yeah. No, so I think it's a fascinating position to be in. I think we're in an extremely fortunate position with the amount of players that we have, and I haven't seen anything from a cultural point of view where you can say these guys aren't participating or at least contributing towards the success of the team on and off the field. So, from within the squad, it's always been the older guys have really helped the youngsters to come through and assist them and help them in terms of on and off the field stuff. So if you have that healthy environment, then it works really well. But if you like you guys know, if you have one guy that's disrupting that environment, then it becomes a very big problem for the greater squad.
Thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Appreciate
Legend.
it. Thanks, John.
Thanks,
Thank you,
brother.
bro.
Cool guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Have
much.
a good one.
Owe you again.
Cheers.
I've got a quick question before we wrap this up. There's been a lot of debate over the last sort of 5 years about the Springboks team being as good as that All Blacks team of 2011, 2015 era.
Oh, hang on. What about 96, mate?
What World Cup did you win, Marshy? What World Cup?
Oh,
did
here
you
we go.
2 World Cups. Richie McCaw,
just
Dan
saying.
Carter, 2 of the greatest players to have ever played the game, right? The Springboks side, 2 World Cups.
What are you saying? Are you saying you're
Pump-
going to say
pumped the-
this
pumped the All
Springbok team
Blacks.
is the best ever?
Pumped the All Blacks in New Zealand.
Yeah,
Do we
look,
need to consider that they could be the greatest team ever?
That All Black team of that period, by the way, just before JP jumps
Stop getting
in,
defensive.
because he'll always go back to bringing some Australian team in somewhere. He won't be able to help himself.
Did he play with Larkham and Gregan?
I think so.
Sure did.
I think so. And then intermingled and amongst all that was some successful Brumbies side, apparently the greatest Super Rugby team that ever existed. But
Boring.
was mate, that All Black team put 50 on the Springboks at North Harbour Stadium.
Yeah, that's true.
So there you go. There was a pumping there as well.
There was a pumping.
Throw that in there.
Can the discussion be had though?
I tell you what,
Oh,
the
look,
Green Goblin
no, look, I
Warriors are
don't-
going to, the keyboard warriors from South Africa, they're going to come in on
Nah,
this. This is
look,
going to be
I-
amazing banter. Best
I don't
ever
think
team.
I don't think it's actually comparing apples to apples. Like, because I think this current Springbok side, I think as individual players, a couple of players obviously in that All Black side, Richard McCaw, Dan Carter, you're talking about, legends of the game forever and ever in the world. Couple of those, I don't see in this current Springbok side like players at that level. But in terms of being greater, the Springbok like momentum and this win, I think this could potentially be anything from the Springboks, because when you take out 450 caps and put 43 points on the All Blacks in New Zealand, then you've got a hell of a side coming through. So if this side wins another World Cup, obviously South Africa is going to go down as one of the greatest nations ever. This period of time, right? Like, so I don't think as individuals you can compare them, because I don't think you can compare anyone to Dan Carter and Richard McCaw.
You know what the thing is,
in terms of the
JP?
squad.
That it does sort of grind on me a little bit. It does grind on me, is this McCaw Carter thing. Because when I look at that team, nobody talks about Kieran Reid, who played over 100 tests for the All Blacks, Kevin Mealamu, Tony Woodcock, Ma'a Nonu, Conrad Smith.
Great
it
players.
wasn't just those two guys. Those two players they were good players. They had longevity. So all of a sudden, because they played that many test matches, it's like, oh, it was McCaw and Carter era. Bullshit, it was. Mate, that team.
That
That's a good
2015
point.
team.
Sam Whitelock was involved in that team. Brody
Sam
Retallick
Whitelock,
was
yeah.
involved in that
Brody
team.
Retallick.
You're
That's a
talking
very
to
good
guys
point.
that basically all were Centurions basically as
Aaron
well. If they
Smith.
weren't, they were very close to another Centurion. So it's like, you know what? It's not a McCaw and Carter thing. They were part of an incredible decade or so of All Black rugby, of great players that are all unequal.
12-13, right? Like that combination of Nonu and
mate.
Conrad Smith, like
Yeah.
100 tests or something. Like, you've never had a midfield like that before, I think, since. So, actually, you know what, man? Great point, Marshy, actually. Like, I think we do gravitate towards those names, right? Like, but I could almost say that about, like, the Wallaby side, like, that I played in, where you go, Gregan, Larkham, like, you know, no, you're not saying Paul, you're not saying like, you know, the other players like the George Smiths, like he's not a household name, which he should be.
Kefu.
Kefu,
Eels,
those sort of
bloody,
players, like
mate,
Eels,
like
yeah. You know, the list
midfield.
goes on, but
Yeah.
you do tend to gravitate towards those players, right, that I suppose live on in folklore as well as have been as well identified as the greatest players of all time.
Thanks very much, guys. And thank you very much for listening or watching. And a massive thanks to our mates at Harvey Norman. They've got a huge range of next-gen AI PCs from the world's top brands. Microsoft, HP, Lenovo, Acer and Asus, all powered by Snapdragon. Enjoy your rugby this weekend.
Up the Wallabies!
Too late. We'll edit that out.
Cut.